You've got miles and miles of grass to mow. So you're going to need a machine built to perform. Day in and day out. Season after season. You're going to need a Gravely. Built to mow the distance.
Now at Myers Equipment and Supplies in Dublin.
From humble beginnings with a desire to serve the Dudley community, Bank of Dudley has grown to 5 locations, serving Lawrence, Twiggs, and surrounding counties. Serving our community since 1905, the Bank of Dudley is looking forward to its 2nd century of community banking. Drop in today to any of our 5 locations: Jeffersonville, Dudley, East Dublin, Veterans Boulevard, and downtown Dublin. Bank of Dudley, member FDIC, and an equal housing lender.
Welcome to Chamber Talk. We have a great show today. I want to say thank you to Lance Jones, Dublin City Manager, for joining us on the show. Lance, thank you so much for taking some time out today. You and I had a conversation, had a few conversations, of course, recently, and concerning all of the COVID-19 and the different ordinances and things coming down all the way from the governor's office to the local municipalities. I want to say, first off, thank you to you guys here in Dublin and for all the hard work and hours that you and staff and all of the staff at the city have done a wonderful job of making sure that life can be as normal as possible for people, especially with services that are needed from the city. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. That's doing our job. So.
Well, so in that, anytime there's ordinances that are new or mandates that are put out, it's confusing to people. Some people agree, some people don't agree so much, but a lot of different things have come out, and you guys certainly are working with the county and with the state to try to make sure we keep people safe. And the governor recently made some revisions to the orders that have come out with this stay at home and things like that. So we're going to do the best we can today to try to explain some of those things to people. I think it's important to start that we say, first off, the shelter in place is still in effect.
Exactly.
And that's in effect until the 30th, I believe, is it?
That's correct, yeah.
And so let's make sure, or let's just talk a little bit about that, what that means. I think people are still confused a little bit about exactly what that means.
Well, and the best source on all of this, I want to say, is because anytime you try to explain it, you're leaving some things out to make it easier, but the full order applies. So, but that's in the governor's order, first order. Well, it wasn't the first order, but the first order in this month that we're in April. There are a lot of requirements there, but basically it means unless you are going out for some essential service or to work in a critical industry or go to your business and do those things that you need to do to keep it from going downhill, like, checking in your stock, cleaning, things like that, that you were supposed to stay in your house, and especially those who are elderly or have lung problems,
right,
things like that. You don't need to go out for anything. Let people bring stuff to you.
And we do want to say that it's still in effect, and this is going to probably make some people angry, but so if I'm correct on this, when we go to the grocery store, or if you happen to go to Home Depot or somewhere for something you need, you really shouldn't see a family of 4 or 5 walking down the aisle together.
And I've seen that, and it's everybody's situation is different. You try not to judge folks, especially at a time like this. But yeah, if one person in your family can go, just one person, because that's just one person that's being exposed. Now, they go back, I know, and they will expose other folks. But out of your 4 people, one thing we know about this virus is you can have it. Some people are in the hospital on a ventilator. Some people it kills. Then there are other people who are very lucky in it. They don't even know they have it.
Right.
And those, they're carriers. So somebody in your family might be carrying that, and you're taking them out where they can expose a whole lot more people. So if you can, we just need to keep it to the smallest groups possible outside.
And I think in addition to that, with the restrictions that we have, and you and I are going to talk about this a little bit later in the show, as far as restaurants or the number of people that can enter into a dwelling, if you're bringing 4 from your family, then sometimes that's 3 other people that have to wait outside of that particular business or place before they can enter. Because you brought all your family with you. And again, I know different circumstances apply, and I know that doesn't make people happy to hear that sometimes, but these are things that we have to work on, and we have to participate and abide by these regulations.
Right, it just all boils down, I think you said it a little before we started, it's just common sense. The fewer people out and about, the better off we all are. And we've just got to look out for each other.
Well, and Lance, you guys shared a document with us at the chamber a few days ago, and we shared that document with our business community here. And there were some questions and things. I think I told you I got about 70 emails in response, and people were asking questions about that. Those were guidelines. Those were things to say, hey, we're trying to help you. Here's what we think. Here's the best we can do to try to help you. Is that a fair assessment to say?
Yes, we're trying to get something out. I think we're struggling like everybody else is to try to understand what's going on. And if I could get into the particulars of that, I think most of the guidelines we put out, now they were based on, we met with Dr. Kraft and Bill Laird from EMA. And the one I think that was causing people the most problems was trying to use the square footage part of that we got. That came down from above, not the governor's office, but and we put it out. We thought it was a good guideline, but it works good for big stores, especially when you get to our biggest stores, Walmart, Home Depot. Some of them are going below that guideline actually. But when you get down to a small store, mom and pop size store, that guideline doesn't work. And there is a better formula to use in the governor's new order. They've actually put out an official formula for businesses, for restaurants, and that way we don't have to guess. We know exactly what they want us to do.
And mentioning that, the governor did announce, I believe it was Monday or Tuesday of this week, that he was doing trying to reopen businesses, hair, nail salons, some different businesses, and there's been mixed reaction. Some folks are elated and happy, and they were calling that night to try to make their appointments, and then other people were saying, please don't open your business, and I'm not opening my business. And so all sorts of mixed reactions about that. However, last night, late in the evening, we did receive those revisions and that information from the governor's office. So I think if we should take a real quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll get right into what those revisions are and do our very best to try to help maybe explain what some of those look like. We'll be right back.
Imagine a life-changing injury. Imagine the fear and unknown. The Houston Clinic Sports Medicine Team, the only physicians in the area with advanced certification in orthopedic sports medicine, treats sports injuries with innovative techniques. The Houston Clinic has helped nearly 1 million athletes live without pain. Imagine getting back in the game. Imagine the best game of your life. The Houston Clinic Sports Medicine Team.
Hello, I'm Darren King with Clements & Keene Insurance. And many of us do not like to talk about it, but no family needs to go without a life insurance program. Show your family how much you love them by preparing in advance with a life insurance program. Clements & Keene Insurance can help you with term insurance or permanent insurance. Regardless of your need, your age, or where you may be in life, life insurance is a critical part of financial planning for you and your family. Please give us a call at Clements & Keene Insurance, 272-8019.
Hurry home, boys, we gotta go. Oh, we're racing. Let's see what you got, boys. Not today, boys. Hey, I got your text. What's the emergency?
What text? Where is my phone?
Oh, I think River wanted to play.
Welcome back to the show. We mentioned right before break, Lance, that revisions have come out from the governor's office. You ready, bud?
We'll try. It's long. It's very long, but I'm glad it is, because there's a lot of more specific things in this that we were trying to guess at before, like the square footage. So.
Right, and I think let's start again by reiterating that you do not have to open if you own one of these businesses, and you do not have, no one's making you go to one of these businesses if you choose not to. If you still don't feel safe having your hair, your nails, or whatever done, then by all means don't do those things. And even if you do, I would encourage, and I'm sure you would agree, use whatever precautions you can to protect yourself as well as others. But for those that are open, let's start with the restaurant. I think there's 39 different
There are 39
stipulations there or restrictions, so let's maybe highlight a few of those.
Like I said, the governor's new order, and I'm glad it's long in a lot of ways, because we needed it. We needed more guidance on some of these things that everybody was just kind of guessing at.
Right. And while Lance is finding that, I want to make sure and mention to you that the City of Dublin Facebook page, the Chamber of Commerce, are places among, I'm sure there are others, but the City of Dublin and the Dublin Orange Chamber of Commerce can provide you with the entire document if you would like to see it. We did email that out to over 500 businesses by the time this airs. So.
Excellent. Well, you need to get it and read it for yourself.
Right.
Okay,
so let's get some highlights on that.
Let me give the usual caveat.
Okay,
As an
absolutely.
ex-lawyer, I am not giving legal advice. I'm not a lawyer
Absolutely.
Today. I'm the city manager, so
We are sharing information that has been shared with us.
we're giving our best guess, and especially because this is very new. The city attorney, Mr. Josh Powell, has basically, he worked on it all night last night. I mean, literally, I got an email from him after 12 o'clock last night. So he's been racking his brain trying to make sure he understands it. So please get this, read it for yourself. We will very soon, I'm sure, meet with myself, county manager, Dr. Thomas Kraft from the Department of Public Health, and Mr. Bill Laird from EMA, and try to make sure we all agree on what this says and how we're going to pursue it. But restaurants can open Monday. So that's the big thing for restaurants. If you're a restaurant and you get this order, you need to read the whole thing, because
And that date on Monday, Lance, is that on there, on the document?
12 o'clock a.m. Monday, April 27th.
April 27th. Restaurants can open if
Can
they
open.
choose to.
If they choose to, they don't have to.
For dine-in services.
For dine-in services. They've been be able to be open for curbside and delivery, pickup, that sort of thing. But the first thing, if you open up, you're wondering how many people can come in my restaurant. And I think we were talking about that, the square footage is difficult. You can have 10 patrons per 500 square feet. Now that's 500 square feet. Please read this, but that's 500 square feet of your restaurant that's usable for people to dine in.
Right.
So you don't include the hallway, you don't include the bathroom, you don't include the kitchen. That's of your dining area. So you take what your dining area is, say it's 5,000 square feet, you divide that by 500, and then multiply that by 10. Now, that gives you the total, that's when you got to close the door and say the next person can't come in.
Right.
All right. But then, if you go through the order, it goes from page 7.
And there were some recommendations in there as well, Lance. I know, if possible, to try to bring people in a front door, take them out of the back door. Servers would be wearing masks. Different things like that are also written in I think there's 39 different.
Yeah, it
like you
goes
said,
from
written.
page 7 to page 9, and you got to take their temperature. If they're sick, look sick,
And I
seem
believe-
sick, go home. There's a ton of things in there that you have to do. And a lot of it, as you said before, is just common sense. If somebody's sick, you don't want them at your restaurant anyway working.
Right.
Yeah, that's the main things. All servers have to, it says everybody has to wear a mask, and that would include everybody in the kitchen. That includes your person up front, if you have one, your hostess. The most people you can have at any one table is 6 people, regardless of whether they're family or anything else. It says 6 people maximum. And they have to, at all times, even though you've calculated how many people can come in your restaurant, I guess that works perfectly if it's just a big square, but most buildings aren't.
Right.
They're oddly shaped. So everybody still needs to, within that number, be able to stay 6 feet apart at all times. So unless they're in that family group. So you calculate the maximum number, but practically in your restaurant, if it's shaped funny, you might not be able to do that. Some people, it does recommend having a front and a back entrance. If you have 2, have a one-way in, one-way out. But some restaurants don't have that, so they're going to have to address that to keep people from 6 apart, keep them 6 feet apart while they're coming and going. It suggests maybe having a phone call system for it. It says you should have reservations. Do it on a reservation system. Don't just have people hanging out in the restaurant. And while people are waiting to come in, to let them maybe stay in their car, and you can call them and let them come in. What you don't want is all of a sudden in the front of your restaurant, you're doing the best you can, but you look outside and there's 20 people standing in a group.
Right.
You know, obviously passing this to each other and then to the rest of your customers and your staff. So we'll go through those 39 items because we're leaving, obviously, most of them out.
Well, and I think it's important also, whether you're a restaurant owner or not, you need to read this. Our citizens need to read this documentation and be familiar with it, because one of the things that I would want to know if I were, patronizing one of these businesses, to make sure they're following these ordinances. There was mention in there, and of course, I hope this is not too much additional cost for those that choose to reopen, but the use of paper menus. They're suggesting or recommending use a paper menu and use it one time and discard that. Condiments and different things that would normally be on the table, removing those types of things, and they're available upon request. And so I think there's it's pretty thorough. There's a lot to know for the patron and for the management and the ownership. And this is not just a document for business owners, but also for citizens to be aware of these things as well.
Well, I think that's where the first, what we talked about, personal responsibility comes into play. Because if you walk into a restaurant and they've forgotten to take the condiment bottles off, do you really want to touch those right now? Because the person before you might have had it. When they hand you a regular menu, do you make sure they've sanitized that thing? It really has made me think of, when somebody hands me a menu at a restaurant, how many hands has that been through? Might be one of those things you don't want to think about. But I know they clean them regularly, but usually they just wipe them off with a rag to get the stains off. But they're supposed to be sanitized now, which means using the 60% plus alcohol formula or bleach.
And I've often wondered, Lance, and this is kind of funny that this come up. Sometimes there is good that comes out of these types of circumstances or situations, but so many of us are creatures of habit. There's so many restaurants that you go to, and for whatever reason, sometimes we do sit there and look at that menu for 10 minutes. We already knew when we got there, and we're going to order the same thing we order every time we come to the restaurant anyway. So if you know what you're going to order, or maybe you could go ahead and look online before you go to that particular establishment, you don't need a menu. You could just let your server know, hey, I already know what I want to order. And maybe that would help as well.
That's one of the things that's suggested is restaurants, if you don't have already online your menu, get your menu online.
Yes.
Call in, make a reservation, give them your order, get there, your meal's ready to go. You hadn't had to touch anything anybody else touched. Really practically, that's probably a more pleasant dining experience in the end. The restaurant's got your food ready to go. You come in, sit down, have a nice meal, and leave, and you hadn't taken the risk of being infected yourself or spreading it, because a lot of us are carrying this and we don't know it. Spreading that to somebody who might have problems that might really make extremely ill.
All right, Lance. So I looked around up here for a minute to make sure there wasn't too much that you could throw at me when I asked you this question.
I got a hammer.
Business hours and hours of operation, because we still have a curfew, we still have a shelter in place. Can we try as best we can to make some sense out of that for folks that may be wondering?
Well, that's been one of the most difficult things in this for us trying to interpret, because in one place it says you can be open for business, and another place it says shelter in place. So you end up with businesses that are open, but if they're clearly, they can be open.
Right.
But then it says
you can't.
Absolutely nobody can go there. So we've had a real hard time trying to put those two things together. But again, just use your common sense. You're under the shelter in place order until April the 30th. As much as possible, stay away from other folks and stay at home. If you need to go to your business to do those things like we talked about, cleaning up, getting it ready to open when it's time, do those things. But don't willy-nilly go shopping from one place to another, go to the grocery store, then to the hardware store, then to the other one. You're really spreading this stuff around. So get your stuff done, come home.
Lance, what are you guys seeing at the city, maybe, outside of normal day-to-day operations, how things were even maybe 2 months ago? What's the biggest change that you're seeing, whether it's from a public safety standpoint or whether it's public services? What's changed the most for you guys here at the city?
Not seeing people has really changed. The city hall, we've been closed. We're very blessed, and a lot of cities have had to deal with how do people get bills paid. That we've got the drive-through window, we've got the night deposit. And a lot of places didn't have that in place, especially when it started. But only seeing people through a drive-in window is a big change, because I'm used to walking the halls during the day, saying hello, talking to folks coming in, helping citizens find where they need to go, having people just come in, sit down in my office and talk with me. And that, I think I feel a lot more isolated from everybody. And I think everybody's feeling that. You just don't feel in touch anymore.
And so, but people do and want to make sure they realize you guys are open. You're open if they need to call you, how would they handle that? Let's say if I need to come down and I really need to talk to you, Lance, what do I do?
Well, hopefully we can do that on the phone. There are not many things we have to talk about in person. I'm trying to think what that would be, but if we absolutely had to do it in person, I'd probably try to meet you outside somewhere.
Okay. Maybe to sign some papers or something like that.
And the way we're doing that is to sign some papers, you could drop them off in the drive-through window.
Okay.
We'll sign them and you come back through the drive-through and we'll hand them back to you. That's the way we're doing permits, zoning requests, things like that. We're handling everything we can through that drive-in window.
So, Lance, another thing, I know you guys appreciate folks, TV 35, they air the council meetings, and I know the other day you guys did Facebook Live, I think, on the council meetings, and
right.
I have heard comments from people that have told me, before TV 35 started filming and before you were doing these types of things, people had never attended or been to a city council meeting. Do you see any changes going forward that may be...
No, we might need to do a better job of telling people when it's on TV 35 and keeping people aware. I think TV 35 has done a great job of getting our meetings out there. And then I really like the way they do it, because you can watch it. And then if you can't see it when it's happening, you can see it, over and over again. Right. You can go see, if you wanted to see the last meeting from 3 months ago, I believe they're all on
YouTube.
YouTube, that's what I was trying to say. And so I really like that system. We're hopefully we can just keep doing what we were doing and make it better. I think a lot of times people forget that we're on. They forget we're on TV 35. But please tune in and watch it. And then, like I said, if you can't watch it, then it's on YouTube, it's on the internet. Watch it on your phone while you're doing something else.
Right, and again, not just for business folks, but for our citizens here to understand and to know what's going on in your local government and decisions that are being made. And this is an opportunity then. Mayor Best always, you guys have a section at the end of those meetings for citizens' comments, and if anyone wishes to be on the agenda, they can actually send in and request and be on the agenda if you guys have reviewed that.
Yeah, not everything needs to be on the agenda,
Right,
but
right.
some things we would steer more toward citizen comments. Because it's just, if you just want to make a comment, you really don't need to be on the agenda, but you're free to come in, stand up and talk with your elected officials. At the end of every meeting, we've got a time, it's just open for anybody that'd like to come and speak on anything they'd like to speak about.
Absolutely. Lance, let's take one more break and then we'll come back and wrap things up.
At Morris Bank, we understand that your personal finances and banking experiences can be stressful. We also know that it doesn't have to be that way. That's why for over 60 years, we've dedicated ourselves to providing common sense banking to people just like you. We work hard to combine the latest online mobile technology and top-notch customer service that allows us to do just that.
We realize our customers have choices, but what sets us apart is the personal service that we provide that they may not receive at larger institutions. We like to make you feel at home, and we like to make the process as easy as possible when you're banking with us.
But we're not focused on helping just our customers. We are equally dedicated to supporting the community we are a part of. Just this year alone, we've logged thousands of community service hours and provided significant financial support to the communities we serve. We want to make sure you have the best banking experience possible. Come see us or give us a call to find out what makes Morris Bank different, because we're banking on you.
The City of Dublin's Natural Gas Department is offering a $1,000 rebate on the purchase of a natural gas, stove, furnace and tank or tankless water heater for new construction homes or if you're remodeling your home. Individual rebates include natural gas tankless, up to $400 rebate and free gas service installation. Natural gas tank, free 40-gallon or $200 rebate on other sizes, free gas service installation. Natural gas furnace, $200 rebate. Natural gas stove, $100 rebate. Natural gas dryer, $100 rebate. Natural gas grill, $100 rebate. Natural gas logs, $100 rebate. Maximum yearly rebate? No maximum. Save now. Save later. Call the City of Dublin Natural Gas at 277-5048.
Welcome back to the show again, Lance. Enjoyed our conversation today. Right before break, we talked a little bit about technology and TV 35 and you guys being on at 10 o'clock on Saturday mornings for folks, which is a really convenient time to watch a show, maybe get a cup of coffee and get your morning started. Yeah. But what technology? So I don't know about you, but 2 months ago, if somebody said the word Zoom to me, I would have related that to a car passing by at a high rate of speed or something. I probably do 2 Zoom meetings a day on a slow day now. What do you see technology-wise and going forward, even for government, for the citizens? A lot of people say, well, hey, when things get back to normal,
normal's going to be different.
Normal's going to look a little different.
Normal's going to be different. I think it's just like the space program. If you grew up through the 60s, there are a million things we do now because of the space program. Things that came out of the space program just changed the way we live all the way around. We just don't know it because we lived in that sea all the time. But I think everything's going to be different after this. I think a lot of people have purchased technology, have learned to use. A lot of this isn't new. Zoom's not new.
Right.
GoToMeeting is not new.
Right.
We used it before. But I think a lot of people have learned how to use it now. These technological things, like we're saying, a restaurant menu on your phone. There's no reason to wait till you get there. I think there are just a lot of things that are going to that we've been able to do, but that we didn't. And now we've gotten used to them, and I think we're going to like a lot of them. They're just, and the thinking about germs, it's always been there. Like we said, the flu kills
Right.
Anywhere from 3 to 60,000 people a year. I've read so many different figures on that, but there's no reason in flu season that we shouldn't wash our hands a lot more, use more disinfectant, get your flu shot. Wear a mask sometimes when the flu's really hitting bad. It's just a lot of practical things. A lot of this we should have been doing for a long time, and we could save a lot of lives every year.
What do you think from a technology standpoint? I know you and I have actually sat in some meetings across the state in different places talking about broadband capabilities and smart cities and technology and things like that. Do you think maybe this would push an upward trend to certainly that type of technology being more available and used in even in rural communities?
I really hope so. I hope that everybody's going to take a look and because it's going to be necessary. And you think of how much time and gasoline we waste. I mean, you and me both go to a lot of meetings. I got to go to a meeting in Atlanta. There's no reason we couldn't do that on GoToMeeting and save all that time. Like you said about traffic deaths, staying off the road. I mean, there's a million reasons to do this on your computer instead of driving for an hour, 2 hours to a meeting and making everybody get together. And I think before you probably didn't, you're a Zoom expert now, or,
Pretty good
compared to where you.
Yeah, I couldn't have used it a month ago.
Right,
I didn't
and
know
I
how
now
to do a Zoom meeting.
I think now, if you call me and say, Lance, let me talk to you for a minute, we're liable to do it on Zoom instead of me crossing town. I still enjoy sitting down with folks drinking a cup of coffee, but even simple things like shaking your hand is a lot of people aren't going to start back. So,
I think those things will be a little bit different going forward. So we covered restaurants really well. Anything else that really stood out to you in there in the governor's order?
I think in the governor's order you can pull a lot of this information, but churches that has really been a question for everybody, especially in our part of the country. Most all of us go to church somewhere. But he in the governor's guide to his order, he spends as much time talking, or maybe more, talking about churches than any other thing. So please, if you're fixing to start back services or try different things, grab the governor's guide to the order, and we're publishing that too, and take a look at it because he talks a lot about churches. The drive-in services are okay. Online, he really recommends as much as possible staying online. I think for most people that's working very well, and at least all churches need to give all their congregants the option of not coming in. Especially you think you've got elderly people in your church. Usually that's a big part of any church, and serving those people. They work hard in the church, and a lot of times they need help from the church. So let's don't shut them out. Don't stop your video service when that's the best way to get to them, because they do not need. An 80, 90-year-old person with health problems does not need to be in a group. I don't care if they're spaced 6 feet out. I don't care if they're spaced 50 feet out. They need to be at home and staying out of these crowds. So make sure you're still putting everything in you can to allow people who, I've got some lung problems. I don't need to be in big groups. So folks, for myself, make it available where I can watch it on TV instead of coming and getting in a group where it's hard not to shake folks' hand at least. It's hard not to hug their neck because that's what you want to do. But make it where your folks don't have to come into the building if they don't have to.
So err on the side of caution.
Always.
Would absolutely be a good thing to say here. And again, drive-in services and my church has enjoyed that. Matter of fact, we thought that even when you can go back in the building, and how nice it has been to have those meetings outside, we're fortunate enough to have a big enough lawn area where we can do that, and it works really well. But as far as returning to work, as far as retail, restaurants, or anything else, I think another idea or recommendation would be, if you're not certain, to call ahead and to ask again, what precautions are you taking? How many people are you allowing? What does this look like? before you go to that establishment, or if it's an employer, to make sure that you know from your employer what precautions are we taking before I return to work.
You had the best analogy before we started about comparing it to speeding. And, you know, when people are speeding around, the police we catch them. You know, we try to keep people from speeding, but we can't make the road safe for you 24/7.
Right.
So what you got to do is look out for yourself. You got to be a defensive driver. You got to be a defensive consumer now. So if you're out there and you walk in a restaurant and you see there's 12, 15 people at a table, there's no social distancing, walk back out. You know, you go into a business now that's open. I don't want to mention one because I don't want to single anybody out, but you go into this business where you know there's only supposed to be 2 or 3 people in there, and the workers are supposed to be 6 feet apart, and all of a sudden there's a big crowd in there. Turn around and walk out. You got to be defensive and take care of yourself, because at the end of the day, nobody else is going to take care of it.
That's right.
You know, it comes down to you being responsible. You know your health. You know what you. I know I've got to be a little more careful than other folks. That's why I got my mask ready. So I'm. And I got called a cowboy when it came in, and that's great. I grew up watching cowboy movies. I still love cowboy movies. So having a chance to walk around like a cowboy has been exciting to me. But I got to take care of myself. I can't depend on other people not to infect me. I hope they do. You know, and we all want to protect each other, but I've got to kind of protect myself also.
That's right.
And wearing a mask is a good way. I mean, it protects you a little bit, but the main purpose of this is if I've got it, I don't give it to you. You know, that's the thing. When I cough, my cough stays in this bandana, not out in the air floating around. Yeah. So, yeah, take care of yourself, stay in, use common sense. You don't want the flu either. Right. You know, there's plenty of stuff floating around.
There's a lot of things out there that can kill you. This is another one, but there are a lot of things out there that can take. Yes.
And I still worry people are looking at this as a cold. For some people, it is just a cold. For some people, it's they don't even know they have it. And you hear those stories and you think, well, there's nothing to worry about. But just recently, there was a funeral of a man nearby, city nearby, that died of this. And basically his death, he was an elderly, had some other health problems. He drowned to death in the fluid in his lungs. Now, that to slowly drown to death is not what you want. It's not what you want for your parents. It's not what you want for any elderly person you know. So think of all the inconvenience we're going through. That is to protect them. You know, I might be fine with this. I might get it and just have a cold. But if I have it and I give it to somebody else and I condemn them to that kind of death, I could never forgive myself. Right. It's just like the reason you don't speed. It's not so much the law as you know. Do you want to be the person that kills somebody because of your speeding? I'd rather be the person that died. That know that I did that to somebody else. I think every one of us would rather be killed than kill somebody. So protect others as you protect yourself.
I think so, and you know, as you were discussing this, I think when people say, well, what does normal look like going forward? I think if you read that document, I think that's a pretty good explanation of what normal is going to look like. I don't think, even though this looks like it's a temporary document to help us through maybe the next month or 2 months, I could see this being long term. This is more what things are going to look like going forward.
One thing for restaurants and for all businesses, take people's temperature, and if they got a temperature over 100 degrees, they should go home. Man, that ought to be the rule all the time.
Well, and you wouldn't you hope because you would know if you had a temperature over 100 degrees, stay home to start with.
Absolutely,
you shouldn't have to be told to go home.
And it's just, a lot of this is just common sense. It really is.
Well, again, these documents are available at the City of Dublin and through the city's Facebook page. They're available on the Chamber's webpage. And also, if you need this, you could call the office and let us know. We'll make sure, if you need a copy of this document, we'll make sure we can get a copy in your hands. Lance, again, I want to say thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And I want to say thank you for all the hard work you guys are doing. Keep up the good work. Stay safe. And thank you for joining us today and helping us make today and every day a great day for business in Dublin, Lawrence County.